Hey everyone, today I just wanted to break down this really cool CG alien scene that I worked on recently. I came up with this project idea to help me better understand all the steps that you have to go through when creating a CG creature like this. I've always wanted to learn how to do this kind of stuff, so I hope that this video can maybe inspire you. This project was definitely one of my most ambitious projects by far. I've never really done something this difficult before, so because of how ambitious this project was to me, I tried to think in my head the whole time going into this that the end result is what mattered way more than how I got to the end result. So yeah, that helped me a lot because then you just save so much time and you don't have to worry as much about being too much of a perfectionist when it comes to trying to create something that you've never done before. There's a lot that goes into something like this, and it can quickly get overwhelming. Definitely was a lot of learning, and it was definitely difficult to get done. So the main thing that actually got me inspired to make a project like this was I watched a movie not too long ago called Sputnik. If you haven't seen that movie, it's like a sci-fi horror genre of movie, I guess you would call. But it has this really sick creature in the movie. As soon as I saw that, I immediately knew that I wanted to try and create that. So that movie was the inspiration of this project. Man, the sun is going down so quickly. I started shooting this at sunset and it's already almost gone. So So we decided to film this in a basement, and the lighting setup was super simple. It was just a few lights. I think there were 3 lights in total, but mainly 2 if you really think about it, I guess. There was my main key light, which was coming from above as an overhead light. And then there was that practical lamp that was on the left side of the screen, all the way in the back behind Sydney. You don't see it in the shot at all, but there's another lamp shining on that wall. So if you have a shot that ends up having CG in it, it can be very difficult sometimes to get that shot right, because obviously when you're filming it, there's nothing actually in the scene on that day. So to kind of help Sydney and I get a better understanding of where our creature was gonna be in the scene, I set up my 360 camera in the spot where we thought it might be, and we just kind of left it there so Sydney could have a better eye line on where to look, and then I could also have a better eye line on where to point the camera at. And then that also helped a lot with giving a little more detail within the shot when it came down to camera tracking. Whenever I got to that point, I knew that was gonna help. Damn, dude, the sun is officially gone. Now we're just in this dark ass room. I didn't plan well for this video. Shit. Alright, so once we got the shot and everything went well, the first thing that I decided to do was start 3D camera tracking this shot. So I've always been using the automated 3D camera tracker inside of After Effects, and that has been working well when it works, but I thought it was finally time to actually commit to a specific software that's actually meant for camera tracking. So I ended up going with the software Synthesize. So Synthesize took me a couple days to get used to, but as soon as I got used to it and got a hang of how it kind of worked, I then started just manually camera tracking this footage, which surprisingly was not as hard as I thought it was going to be. This is my first time ever in a 3D, in a software that was specifically made for camera tracking. I actually did try to do this camera track inside of After Effects, but it completely failed. It didn't do well at all. So after I got a pretty good track with Synthesize, I then went ahead and exported that data into Maya. I've been absolutely loving Synthesize, and I'm super excited to start using it for future projects. Now I won't be as restricted when coming up with certain shots with CG elements. Inside ZBrush, I started creating the creature using the Z spheres and Dynamesh, just focusing on getting the primary shapes of the creature and not trying to get into detail too quickly. So yeah, just trying to stay with the primary forms as long as I could before moving on to the secondary and tertiary forms. Before I got too far with the design of the creature, I then sent it off to Maya for the retopology work, and for this I'm just using the quad draw tool. In the beginning, I was just focusing on getting in loops where they should be on the body. I'm still pretty new to the idea of retopologizing and all of this stuff, so this was like really good for me to get that time to practice on how to do this in the best way possible. Again, this topology probably wasn't the cleanest or best topology, but in the end it worked out well enough for me to have it work. So once the retopology was done and I got my UVs from Maya, I then brought it back into ZBrush for the final touches of all those details. So I ended up using a couple alpha brushes that I found online. I think there was some kind of frog skin brush to get the look of that creature's skin. There was a lot of that frog skin pattern on the surface of the skin. I then started to texture the creature's skin inside of Substance Painter. My goal for the texturing process was trying to get a very like wet, fleshy, gross look to the skin. I tried to make sure that I was looking at my reference as much as possible to get a better idea on the overall color differences on the skin, like how splotchy it was and where it usually was splotchy. So once I had everything finished and I was feeling pretty good about it, I then just sent the textures and model over to my tracked scene in Maya. At this point, I'd already created a rig for this creature and just had to worry about how I wanted this creature to be animated for this scene. Inside Maya, I'm rendering this in Arnold, and I really wanted to use the AOV workflow for compositing inside of After Effects, but I'm still kind of unfamiliar with how to do that, and so I just decided to kind of wait on learning how to do that too, because that would have just taken so much more time. So I thought that it would be fine to just render out my beauty pass with as an EXR file, and then separately render out my shadow, which was a little annoying because I had to do it in 2 render sessions. I know that in the future I'll save so much time when rendering with AOVs for compositing, but it is what it is. So in the original plate, you can obviously tell that my 360 camera is in the way of where the creature should be. So I went back to Synthesize and then exported the camera track into After Effects, so then I could use my clean plate that I created inside of Photoshop to then paint out the 360 camera and the stand to then have the scene be usable for our super sick creature. So once I had my plate cleaned up, I then started adding in my 2 render elements. The first one being the just beauty pass of my creature without the shadows, and then adding my shadow pass of just like the creature shadow on the floor. Just trying to match the overall brightness of the image and how blurry it should be. Things like grain, trying to match that. Then once I finished up the compositing part of the process, it was then ready to be color graded inside of DaVinci Resolve. So, boom. So yeah, that's basically it. I mean, those were all the steps that I went through when creating this project. It is now completely dark outside, I think. No, there's still some light, but this scenario, this lighting setup has definitely changed. I love these kinds of videos and I'm planning on making more in the future. So if you're interested in this kind of stuff, whether it's visual effects or cinematography with filmmaking, make sure you subscribe to my channel, because there's going to be some sick stuff that I want to eventually get to making for this channel. So if that interests you at all, you should definitely subscribe to my channel, and also make sure you hit the notification bell so you know exactly when these videos come out, so you don't miss it. You don't want to miss it. It's too good. Alright guys, thanks for coming by and watching this breakdown of how I made this super cool CG alien scene. So I'll catch you guys in the next video. Alright, peace.